Behold, one of our most devious cold calculating frames. Using her link, Trinity can force up to 3 nearby enemies to take most incoming damage for her, and using perhaps her most glorious build, we're going to do quite a bit more than that. My name is Andy, and this is FrameWork, a series of Warframe builds crammed with synergies and special techniques to destroy your enemies. Normally, people often ask for EV or Energy Vampire Trinity, which uses minimum duration and high range with mods like these to generate energy fast without requiring you to kill the targets you're casting on. And then there's Bless Trin, which has high duration and at least 50% strength to max out the damage reduction on Blessing. Today's build is still very effective at giving allies energy using Energy Vampire, and still has Blessing at maximum strength and very high duration, but we've sacrificed a little optimization for those abilities in exchange for serious tankiness and anti-armor capabilities. It's actually very simple. We just want at least 223% strength so that Abating Link removes all armor, 100% of armor, from any targets you're linked to, and with these mods you get exactly that much strength with literally only 1% extra and minimal penalties. I've avoided using Blind Rage here just because I find it annoying to have to use Energy Vampire more than a couple times each minute. This is just what feels comfortable for me, but you could free up space by using only a max rank Blind Rage and Intensify to hit this strength threshold instead. A little bit of range is important so you can link to enemies you aren't right on top of, since you're fairly squishy without links attached, and you're going to want some duration so you don't have to recast Link obnoxiously often. Both Energy Vampire and Link can't be cast while in the air for some reason. The flow of combat with this build is pretty simple. Just use Link, and then Blessing if you or your allies need it, or just for the damage reduction, and then use Energy Vampire. Repeat that over and over again, while staying close to enemies until there are no more enemies. If you'd like to go further in the supportive direction, consider running Vazarin as your focus. Mending Unity will increase your affinity range by 10 meters at base, it caps out at 25 meters. This will increase the range of your Blessing. Blessing's not based on range, it's based on your affinity range, so you can use this to bless a much larger area. And if you crave even more range while playing out on the plains, consider using Phosphor Blau or its red variant. This will fire up a flare and increase your affinity range massively for 2 minutes. Pretty simple. So let's talk about how we're going to kill the enemies. We have a couple of guidelines. At any given time, several but not all of our enemies will have no armor. We want to be pretty close to our targets, and we can take a lot of hits. Personally, the Piranha had me at hello for this loadout. This Piranha build has been passed around the community quite a lot as the highest sustained damage per second build in the game, but it has absolutely no way to deal with armor, so that doesn't really mean anything on its own. But that's not a problem for this build. Just shoot in the direction of the link beams as fast as you can and... Oh, it's full auto too! Lovely. This thing does a mind-warping amount of damage, and you gotta try it. Right, so we're gonna focus on killing enemies with our Piranha rather than with a melee weapon, which is what most tanks tend to use, so that we can prioritize targets that we're linked to. Because we already have the Piranha to kill the enemies that we're linked to as our primary tank damage-dealing weapon, we're using the Vacor Sidon as kind of like an aggro control weapon. This weapon is really synergistic with Guardian Derision, because when the Vacor Sidon blocks 15 attacks, you can release a Radial Blind by releasing the blind, and Guardian Derision makes enemies attack you instead of allies. As a polearm, the Vacor Sidon is also in the highest class of melee damage reduction at 85%, and again, it will still serve as a good backup melee weapon. With a decent Blood Rush build that fits in even with Guardian Derision taking up a slot, we have 50% status chance, loads of corrosive, and some puncture, so we will do plenty of damage against armored targets and scale our crits up relatively well. While we're talking about adding a bit of defense to this loadout, I've decided to bring Doriga. Doriga's a pretty good defensive sentinel with good defensive stats that will be happy to get healed up by Trinity's Blessing, and some defensive precepts, Arc Coil, which can zap a bunch of enemies in melee range, and Electropulse, which will stun lock one enemy in case you face a larger priority target. Along with Link, this is going to keep you pretty safe, I find, but it's this combination of things that really allow you to be a tank, because Trinity is not herself naturally very tanky. Additionally, Doriga has pretty good attack range, so alongside my spicy Death Machine rifle with its glorious 8 Forma, that many of you on this channel have seen way too many times, you should be able to handle enemies at a slightly greater range with a bit more ease. Yeah, and then I threw this in here. Let's talk. So obviously we needed a long range option, and the Supra. Look, when you're piddling away at people with your little shotgun and blocking stuff with your Vacor Sidon, that's all very cute, but sometimes you just gotta shoot people. You just gotta fire a bunch of bullets. You just gotta fire an insane amount of bullets everywhere. So look, this is also not really good, but like fun to shoot at ships. You don't really have to aim all that much. You just kind of Just kind of. Well, and seriously, additionally, there are some things you can't link to, so you definitely need a way to effectively strip armor as well. That's why I chose the Super Vandal over like a sniper rifle. That's something else I was considering for this slot. I think Super Vandal is a pretty good fit. And the build for that looks like this. Now, I would feel free to use this weapon even if you don't have the Vandal variant. The Super is fine, but I probably wouldn't use this weapon without Entropy Burst. Adds 20% additive status chance, which is how you get the status chance so high. This makes it a really potent armor stripper. Alongside Vigilante armaments and split chamber, you're shooting a lot of bullets really, really fast. Not that accurately, but go figure. If you enjoyed this build, check out my FrameWork playlist for more builds like it. And you may be particularly interested in my framework for Equinox, which features a similar playstyle, tanking by being close to enemies. Thanks for watching! Check me out elsewhere on the internet in the description, subscribe if you had a good time, and I hope to see you soon.